This unit we're going to look at XML and how to handle XML files. XML is commonly used to store data or often to transfer data, I guess, between applications, one area and another. It's not uncommon to take data from a database, transform it in XML, send it over the internet, and at the other end have a different application read that XML and either display the data or store it again in a database or some other format. So we'll be looking at a number of applications that kind of transform XML in one way or the other. So I'm going to open up the Chapter 18 exercises and samples. Chapter 18 shows some simple XML. We're going to look at just some of these things. We're going to look at the XML document tester and a little bit at the XML writer. So I'm going to open up this XML document document test file. And that has a number of buttons here. One to create an XML file, read an XML file, and search an XML file. It also has a label here to display some of the information and a data grid, a grid view for displaying some of the results. So that both the label and the grid view will be used by these two buttons here. So let's try this out. I'm going to run this application. So the first thing I want to do is create the XML. This is a button. This will create the XML file successfully, which the other buttons will use and display the information. We'll look at that XML file in just a sec. Read XML will display this data in a little table here. This is our grid. It's displaying these things here. And search XML will use our label to display some information it finds. So here's our XML data, and again, this is the label. So let's look at some of the code. First, let's look at the XML that's created for this. Let me stop this from running. So the XML data is stored just like our databases in the app data folder. So we're going to look at the Super Pro product list XML. The one that's actually, I think, created and used in here is the Super Pro product list no namespace version. These are two slightly different versions of the document. One talks about lists and XML, additional files for XML. The no space one doesn't necessarily have that. Okay, so let's just review XML. So XML is a format, a text format for storing data. We store data with tags. And tags are marked by a less than, and a greater than, kind of as brackets. So here's our price tag, and then each tag has a beginning tag and an ending tag, and here's the end price tag, and the end tag is marked by a backslash. So less than sign, a backslash, then the name of the tag, and then a greater than sign. This is very similar to HTML. HTML is closely related to XML in many ways. Same sort of tagging format. So you probably have seen this sort of tagging format before. So we can have tags and their values. That's the text between the beginning and the ending tag. We can also have tags and inside the tag. So here's the tag is starting here and it's not ending here. Inside the tag we can have what we call attributes. Every attribute has a name or identifier, an equal sign, and then a value. So here's the name, identify equals, and then chair. So different XML will sometimes store information in these ID fields and sometimes in values. I think a more acceptable practice is to store data in values rather than ID fields. But this example shows both so that we can see how the code handles both of these examples. XML is also hierarchical. So here we have a product tag. Here's the start of the product tag and end of a product tag. And within that tag we have the price tag. And so we can actually close and open this product tag. In fact, I can close all these product tags just to see I have 3 products. And they're all within this Super Pro product list. So here's the start of that tag and the end of that tag. So XML is always set up with this hierarchical format, and we'll use that. Sometimes we'll have to read this tag and then go and read tags within that, and then maybe go with and read tags within that also. So again, this data is stored in the app data folder. Oh, I should leave one of these open. Now there is also an XCD, an XSD, and an XSL file here. They're used for formatting and defining the format and displaying the display of that. These examples on transform and validation use those, but we will not be going over those examples in this unit. If you're going to be working a lot with specific XML and data, you'll want to study more on those, but we just don't have time in this limited course to spend on all of that XML stuff. So we'll be looking at the basic data, reading and writing XML data. So let me just well, let's look at this document test, and let's look at where we create the XML document. So when we push that button, this click command is run, and we use something called an X document type to create XML documents. So we declare an X document, and that's defined in system.xml.link. And so we need to include that, and we'll talk about how to include that easily when we do the practice problem and we start something from scratch for that. So then we can declare XML elements that'll match the XML file. So initially we will create a SuperPro product list, and then we'll create a product, and it'll have certain attributes, and then we'll create price underneath that. So again, we create an element for the SuperPro product list, an element for product, and we give that element attributes, and then under that we create another element for the price and give that a value. And again, these are kind of called hierarchically. Let's try that. And so here's my X element and my start bracket and bracket, and within that I define my attributes and my element, and so that matches the way that this product includes the attributes and the additional element there. So, and same with this SuperPro element, that starts there and goes down all the way to here. So we can use this kind of format, these attributes and these commands, to easily create XML documents. It is not that difficult, and we'll see that with XML Writer, to read this information like from a database or some source like that, process this stuff and create an XML file from that, and that's a very common option. Okay, now let's look at this middle button where we're reading the XML file. So we're now going to load in this XML file. So we create an XML document and we say load, and we load in the local file. In a later example, we'll be loading this file in through the internet from a remote source like an RSS feed. But right now we're just opening up this local file. And the local file, that file variable, is actually defined up here. We create a path, and we use our app data folder, and then define what we're doing. And you can see we're actually going to be reading in the SuperPro product list underscore no namespace XML file from app data. Okay, so that creates our path, which we can then open down here. We then declare a list of products. We have this type called product, which we'll look at in just a sec. And a list is like an array list or an array. It just gives us an easy way to add elements to the product list. So later on here we'll see our calling add using this product variable to add products to this. So what is this product class? Well, that's actually declared in app code. Products is here. It's just a simple class with an ID field, a name field, and a price. And this structure matches it matches the data here where we have a product and it has an ID, a name, and a price. And again, this is actually showing some of the data stored in attributes and some of it as values. But we're going to store them here. And then we just use the standard set and get methods that are kind of built in here. So nothing fancy, no other methods here are just a structure for storing product information. So we declare a new product, and then we're going to call that new product, and we're going to set the ID, the name, and the price field using elements in the here in our XML file. And so again, the ID and the name are stored as attributes, and the price is stored as a separate value of a sub element. So again, what we have to do is we have to loop through each element here. We use this, we've got our document, which is our entire XML document here is doc. And then so we're going to say doc.element, and then we're going to grab the top level element, and then we're going to say dot elements, notice the plural here, and grab all the subsequent elements underneath that. So element grabs the next element that matches this name. Elements gives us a whole list of elements that match this name. So again, and this has to match our layout here. Maybe if I minimize this a little bit, you'll see. So we have super product list, so that's our first element. And then under that, we're going to grab all the elements that match product, that have the product name. So in this for each statement, element is going to be assigned to each one of these products. And it's of type X element. So often, again, we're going to use this X document and X element together. X element are going to be particular elements within a document. So we're going to grab each element out of the list. We're going to create a new product, and then we can do, if it's an attribute, we say element dot attribute and then the attribute name. Here we're doing ID and name, and again we might have to cast these to the right type for us. Now if we have an element like, let's open one of these, price is a sub element within the product element, so we have to do our element call again. We have to say element dot and use the element method and price. Now we can just use element singular because there's only one element, one price under each element. We used elements to get all the products because there are multiple tags of that type, but with price there's just one, so we can just say element price and grab that element price and save it. So we're just creating this new product and setting its values based on the XML data. We're then adding that product to our product list, which is like our array list type class, just a list actually up here. And then what we can do is bind that to a data grid. Now we kind of skipped over the chapter, I think it was chapter 16 on data binding. But it's similar to how we bound databases to a data grid, data tables here. We're just doing it in with code here. So what this does is it'll bind the list to a data grid. So when we say read XML, this is our data grid. We create our products, our 3 products, we put them in a list object, and then we bind that list object into this data grid, our grid view, and the grid view displays that for us. Okay, now let's look at the next area. So here, remember, we are using document.element and elements, and we had to step through the kind of code, our document one at a time. We had to say, oh, the first top tag is this, and then the other tags are here. But what if we just wanted to grab the price tags here, and we knew they were nested deeply within our XML, but we didn't really care. We just wanted to search and find these. And again, in our practice problem, we'll be doing that. We'll be going through and trying to find the we'll have weather XML data here, and we'll want to just find the temperature data from this. And so if we're going to go do searching, let's do this search XML example. Oops, stop this from running. Go back, search XML. And again, that's the next code down here. Again, we're creating a X document. We're loading in the file, our XML file. And now we're using this document.descendants. So it's similar to how we're using elements, but descendants will search through, find the price any element labeled price anywhere in our documents, anywhere in the hierarchy where element just looks at the current level. So when we say elements, it'll just look at the current level, like at the highest level for just here. Searching with descendants will find price anywhere in our document. So it's going to give us a list of results of all the elements. We can display like results.count is the number of elements that are found, and then we can do our for each x element dot result in results. So in this search result, we can grab those, and now we're displaying this information this time in a label field. If you remember, we have this label LBL XML, and we're just going to put the information in that label. So that's just a text field. We can say LBL.text equals, and we're actually formatting some HTML. B splits boldface here, and this is the end of the boldface. BR is a line feeder break. And so when we find each element, we're going to concatenate that onto our label field. And so we're going to say result, and that's result is our X element thing, and then dot value. So dot value is the value that's stored within the tags here. So we can say result dot value. And again, we're just adding some more HTML here so that it looks nice. Oops, I don't have it running anymore. Let's run this. So when we hit this, it'll go through and find all the prices, display each one, put a line feeder break after each one. It also displays found 3 matching for the price tag and puts that in bold. So that's, this is displaying that header, and this is displaying each of the elements found, and they're all showing up in that one label. Okay, just I'm going to wrap up real quick here. Let me stop this. Now again, we're not going to go over the XML transformer validation. I'm just going to quickly show you the writing one and talk a little bit about that. So again, this has similar buttons, and for each one of these buttons, we're reading in the data, and so we're reading data and creating files for this. So we have 2 files here. One, R, is our XML file we're reading in, and FS is a file stream we're writing out, and then we're just converting this XML file we're reading in into a text file we're writing out. I'm not going to go too much into these examples. We're going to be doing a different kind of object or example in our practice problem, similar to X documents, where we'll be searching or using the X element tags. There are also now some newer classes, often in databases, that'll transform databases in XML sometimes a little easier. So I'm going to not go over this XML writer. It is common, though, to have to do this. I've certainly written code very similar to this to go through XML data and write it out in a particular format for a particular need. Transform XML to some data you want or store it in a database. Okay, so that wraps up this Chapter 18 review. Next we'll go on a practice problem.